Thank you. The final item of business is a members' business debate. I can ask the Chamber to be quiet, please. You've said your farewells. Thank you. The final item of business is a members' business debate on motion 24252 in the name of Beatrice Wishart on Upstart Scotland. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put. Could I ask those members who wish to speak in the debate to press the request to speak buttons now, and I call on Beatrice Wishart to open the debate. Ms Wishart, please.
Presiding Officer, I firstly want to thank those opposition members who gave their support to this motion to allow for it to be debated. This is the first time that the Scottish Parliament has seen a debate on raising the school starting age. It would be a big change, and I understand why some people are nervous about it. Scotland's school starting age has been with us since 1870. It is deeply ingrained in our culture, in our habits, and in our expectations. Victorian politicians chose the age of 5 so that mothers would be able to provide labour, and also so that their children could join them sooner. I don't believe in change for the sake of change, but just because something has lasted a long time doesn't mean it should carry on without question. Other countries don't start formal schooling so young. Scotland's an outlier in Europe, with only Cyprus and Malta keeping the UK company. Starting later would match what we now know about how children develop, how early years are best grounded in play, on developing skills and using the outdoors to develop curiosity and confidence, how important that is to physical and mental health and well-being. It's not about putting off learning until children reach primary 3. Attending school would still be mandatory. It is about transforming how children learn in what is currently P1 and P2. It's about recognising the long-term educational benefits of starting more formal schooling a little bit later. Because the evidence shows that starting later doesn't mean finishing behind. Instead, children are better prepared to shine in areas like literacy and numeracy. By learning together through play, children develop the critical skills needed for more complex tasks, with better long-term outcomes. If you start a child on those tasks before their brains are developed enough, then they fall behind others in their class who were ready. They lose confidence, and that can have lasting impacts. The best way to close the attainment gap is not to open it in the first place. I want to pay tribute to Upstart Scotland, who have been working diligently to build a platform for that evidence. That has been invaluable to me as I worked through my own initial reservations, but I now firmly believe that this is a sensible way forward. Because the most recent PISA results were worrying. They told us that something was wrong in Scottish education before the pandemic, despite the best efforts of teachers, pupils and parents. But there is more to be found in those results than just that cause for concern. PISA comparisons consistently show that countries with later school starting ages have performed better. Places like Finland, which have enviable outcomes in terms of attainment, well-being and overall satisfaction with the education system, have always been amongst the highest scoring nations. By the age of 9, pupils in Finland have higher reading levels than pupils in the UK, having started at the age of 7, not 4 or 5. Instead, in Scotland, we push 4- and 5-year-olds through national assessments, a testing regime that the SNP government continued against the will of Parliament. Presiding Officer, recovery from this pandemic through education is not going to happen overnight, and changes like this won't magic away other problems. There's plenty else that we must address too, but children only start school once. It's so important that we get this right for all their life chances. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now call Rona Mackay to be followed by Jamie Green. Ms Mackay, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to be taking part in this important debate today, and I thank Beatrice Wishart for bringing it to the Chamber. Presiding Officer, nothing is more important than our children in the early formative years of their lives. Upstart Scotland are a respected, informed organisation with the best interests of children at their heart and as their core aim. I have every regard for them as an organisation. They believe in the importance of play and the fundamental need for children to experience all elements of growing and learning in the natural world. Time and space to play is essential for physical and mental health, development of communication, social and problem-solving skills. Sadly, during this pandemic, we know that children have been missing play with their friends at school or at home, and many children without outside space have been restricted to playing indoors. Just one of the terrible consequences of how this pandemic is affecting our young people. Presiding officer, play is natural. It's a human instinct to want to play. Indeed, it's an instinct for animals too. How much time do we spend playing with our pets who instinctively want to play from birth, whether as domestic pets or animals in the wild? So I entirely agree with the ethos of Upstart Scotland, and I'm heartened to see that over the last 5 years, early years providers in schools now see promoting play as an essential part of their role as practitioners. Presiding officer, shortly after I was elected, I met an inspirational woman and her team of early years providers, my constituent Pauline Scott, who runs Lullaby Lane Nurseries in Bearsden and Mulgai. She taught me so much about the importance of attachment, the importance of play, and the benefits to families and to children and their families. I was impressed with this ethos as a practitioner and remain impressed by Pauline as an employer, leading a team of caring professionals doing a job that frankly is invaluable to us as a society. When my son was at nursery 25 years ago, things were very different. The care was excellent and I had no complaints at the time. But looking back, there was little evidence of outdoor play or unconstructed play, which is essential for little ones to expand and develop. The motion submitted by Beatrice Wishart asks us to support the reform of early primary school education and the introduction of a statutory kindergarten stage up to age 7. Presiding officer, I have much sympathy with this and agree that it's something that should be part of a wider discussion. The evidence cited by Upstart Scotland and our European neighbours, and Beatrice Wishart has outlined this, is very persuasive. And they suggest that Upstart Scotland suggests that emerging from the pandemic would be a good time to restructure our primary education system. Our focus just now, however, is getting all children back to school, but that's not to say that when that's successfully and safely done, the conversation should not begin. It would require considerable societal change with many wider consequences to be considered. Presiding officer, it's clear in my view that starting formal schooling later does not harm a child academically, and in this regard I welcome the government's changes to the deferral scheme, which gives parents the choice on delaying school until they believe their child is ready. I expect the Minister may mention this in her closing speech. So in conclusion, Presiding officer, I'd like to commend Upstart Scotland's work and research on this vitally important issue, and I'd like to again thank Beatrice Wishart for bringing it to the Chamber. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms McKine. I'll call Jamie Green to be followed by Ian Gray.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to keep Ms Wishart company in the Chamber for the benefit of those at home. What a parliament it would be if it was just me and the Liberal Democrats. As is customary, no comment required, Deputy Presiding Officer, but thank you. As is customary, we should thank the member for bringing what is a really important subject during members' time, in what little parliamentary time we do have left. And to choose this topic over another, I think, is both wise and welcome. It's also good to see Ms Wishart in person in the Parliament after a difficult year. Can I also pay tribute to Upstart Scotland and Sue Palmer specifically for all their excellent work and their persistent efforts in highlighting the importance of early years and how it can help, as has been mentioned, levelling that playing field in education. I don't have much time to go into the detail of many of their proposals, but rest assured I am halfway through reading the book Play is the Way. And I would encourage members also to read it. You can dip in and out of it very easily, and there's some excellent arguments and concepts raised within. I did look at the motion proposed today, and in my view it did make a few specific calls which I felt unable to support. Perhaps in normal times I would have, but we're in the midst of that awkward manifesto period, and I'm sure the member will understand, and indeed forgive me for not putting my name to specific policies. But I do remain sympathetic to much of its content. I think there is cross-party consensus that we all want to give Scotland's children the best start in life, although there may remain disagreements over how we deliver that. As UNICEF rightly puts it, the first 5 years of a child's life are fundamentally important. They are the foundation that shape a children's future health, happiness, growth, development and learning achievement at school, in the family, in the community and in life in general, their words. Research also tells us how important those early years are for the brain's organisational development and function throughout life, and they have a direct impact in those early years on how children develop learning skills as well as their social and emotional abilities. So when an organisation like Upstart come along and put forward good ideas, I hope we'll hear in the government's response that it considers those good ideas wherever they come from. There's no doubt a case to be made for much of the content of their aims, and to that degree I welcome some of their calls. In fact, in a recent policy paper that the Conservatives put forward, we made calls for closing the word gap in young children before they enter school. Other aspects of their aims and ambitions I very much welcome. For example, the importance of outdoor activities on learning. I don't think we can understate the importance of outdoor learning. That is a particular industry that's carried many difficulties this past year and has been campaigned for by colleagues like Liz Smith and many others in this chamber to highlight the importance of the plight of outdoor learning centres right now. Upstart also have aims such as the concept of kindergartens. We could spend a whole day debating that. The importance of the 3 Rs, of cognitive learning, play, and a real focus on the early years workforce itself and the vital role that it plays. They're also right to highlight, I think, the value of time and space for play, because it's vital for that all-round healthy development of children, because we know that children on average today are spending half as much time being active in creative or outdoor play than their parents did. Now, that's not to say that digital doesn't work. It does, it has its role. Indeed, gaming and digital activities are often blamed for inability to learn, but I think their role in learning is underestimated. We don't talk enough about the role technology plays. In fact, the events of this last year remind us of the importance of digital learning. But nothing, in my view, replaces face-to-face interaction with teachers and with peers. But in the few short seconds I have, what about that subject of starting school later? There may be benefits to such a policy, and I think we should always keep our minds open to such. There is also thought, indeed, to the contrary. I think one summing up quote best summarises the problem we have, and that is from Professor Thomas Corneliuson from Sussex University. I apologise to the professor if I've mispronounced his name. He says that surprisingly little is known about what the optimal school starting age is, despite the obvious policy relevance. And I think that really sums up this debate. We don't know enough. We need more valued research into this. I'm not here to judge or indeed decide. Many countries take different approaches, and what works in one may not always work in another. But nonetheless, we know that we should never be afraid to challenge the status quo, and Upstart Scotland does that very admirably. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Green. I call Ian Gray to be followed by the Minister. Mr Gray, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Let me add my thanks too to Beatrice Wishart for bringing this member's business on the Upstart campaign to the Chamber this afternoon. I believe this is a timely debate as we start to assess the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on Scotland's young people and perhaps have the chance to look ahead to doing things differently and indeed better as we recover from the pandemic. So if there's ever been a time to fundamentally look again at how we can give children and young people the best start in life, it probably is now. The Parliament has made some significant progress in this last term, introducing legislation improving the lives of young people that members from across the Chamber have fought for, and some of which has been groundbreaking. The long-delayed victory for the Give Them Time campaign, for example, which stood with parents who wish to defer their child's entry into primary school. And then there is the imminent passing of the incorporation of the UNCRC rights of the child into Scots law. So this Parliament can be bold and drive forward change when it wants to. And with the introduction of 1140 hours of early years education for 3- and 4-year-olds, now probably is the time for Upstart's campaign to introduce a proper kindergarten stage with formal schooling beginning at age 7 to be properly considered. As Beatrice Wishart has already pointed out, Scotland is actually in the minority internationally when it comes to formal schooling age. Most countries only starting children in formal education at the age of 6 or 7. There is, as members have referred to, an increasing body of academic research in the area which shows that there may be benefits from that kindergarten stage. And it could also help change cultural attitudes to early education and raise awareness of the vital importance of play and learning, and in particular, outdoor play. The potential benefits of delaying the start to formal schooling, as the motion refers to, include wider physical, emotional, social and cognitive development, and it requires serious consideration if the evidence shows that this can lead to better long-term outcomes and that a later start could help to close the poverty-related attainment gap, as Beatrice Wishart spoke about. As other speakers have referred to, there is growing support for Upstart's campaign across Scotland, including from the Commissioner for Children and Young People, many academics, doctors and many frontline education professionals. It is important, though, that we take parents with us in any kind of reform like this, and it's worth noting how this debate has been reported, misreported indeed, as moving the school starting age from 5 to 7. That's not exactly what the motion calls for, and in my view, addressing this by a disruptive change in the law, as is suggested in the motion, is not the best approach. Much better would be a shift to more blended transition from early years to more formal education, building on recent changes already happening in the pedagogy of early primary school. Presiding Officer, this is a debate we should and must have, and Upstart should play a big part in the development of any education recovery plan for Scotland in the coming months. But so too must parents, teachers and wider society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Gray. And I call on Marie Todd to close the Scottish Government. Minister, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The physical and emotional well-being of our children and young people is always of paramount importance, and I am wholly supportive of the way that the Upstart campaign has centrally positioned child well-being within their ethos and their activity. I also strongly agree with the benefits of play-based pedagogy, child-centred learning and outdoor educational experiences. As part of my role as Minister for Children and Young People, it has been a privilege to visit many school and preschool settings, and I've seen firsthand the impact of play-based approaches and learning outdoors. I'm a passionate believer that that work should continue. But my experiences of visiting schools and early learning settings have also demonstrated to me that these extremely positive educational outcomes are being delivered without the need for the introduction of a formal kindergarten stage. The inherent flexibility of the Curriculum for Excellence, combined with the hard work and creativity of our education practitioners, already allows play-based approaches to be delivered up to the age of 7 and indeed beyond. We have a tremendous opportunity to build on this work and to ensure that child-centred play-based pedagogies become the norm for all children from birth to 7 right across Scotland. And importantly, this can be achieved without the need to formally change the school starting age, a move which others have acknowledged would cause significant disruption, particularly as we continue to battle a pandemic. I've listened to persuasive contributions from a number of colleagues in the Chamber this evening, and I'll take some time to respond to some of them. Beatrice Wishart mentioned that this current school starting age is detrimental to academic attainment. Well, without understanding the consequences of other factors, we can't really conclude that either raising the school starting age or not would be risk-free, or indeed that lower starting ages in Scotland drives current performance. The data from the 2015 PISA assessment suggests that there's little relationship between school starting age and performance at the end of compulsory education. There was virtually no difference in performance in maths, and in reading there was a slightly negative relationship. So overall, PISA's data suggests that the effect of the school's starting age on educational performance is very weak when compared to other interventions. There was also a mention of the primary assessments, and I really must make absolutely clear that if it is not appropriate for a child to sit these assessments, they should not take part in a standardised assessment. That was made clear when we debated that before, and that should be more clear than ever this year. Jamie Green talked about outdoor learning, and I have to say, I think right across the chamber we share that passion. While early learning and childcare settings can sometimes find it easier to take children outdoors, perhaps because of the ratios of adults to children, there is evidence of really excellent outdoor learning in schools, and the unique challenges of the current pandemic mean that outdoors is going to be even more important as we return to school. We continue to support this work, and in this year we have funded the development of free to access professional development courses focusing on outdoor learning. And recent discussions with academics about the transition to primary one and what I would call the healing for children from this pandemic as they return to school. The indicative learning about play and learning is really good. Play and learning are indivisible. They are one and the same thing for children. And children have been playing a lot in the last year. They've been exercising agency and choice and being creative and playful and socialising. And we have, as a government, put children right at the centre of our decision making as we've navigated through the pandemic. And the evidence is that there has been some very good gains from that. There's been efforts to take back the streets, and some intergenerational learning together and enhanced family time. I'm very pleased to hear Ian Gray acknowledge some of the groundbreaking work that we've achieved during this term of Parliament. The work on deferral, I'm delighted that has finally, we finally passed legislation on that promise. The UNCRC incorporation will happen next week, and 1140 hours will be delivered this year. In conclusion, I want to record my thanks for the opportunity to take part in this debate and the very thoughtful contributions of colleagues across this Parliament. I thank Beatrice Wishart for bringing this debate to the Parliament. I truly believe that we in Scotland have a chance to create that child-centred, play-based approach that Upstart support without the need for organisational change, though. It is significant that in the response to the publication of the Scottish Government's Realising the Ambition document for early years education, Upstart's March 2020 newsletter stated, if this document can be translated into practice in all Scottish early years settings, including P1, Scotland's ELC provision will be up there with the Nordic countries, and Upstart will be redundant. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes this debate, and I close this meeting.